Good morning, students. Today, in our social science class, we are going to continue our history chapter Nationalism in India. Today, we will start with the topic Jallianwala Bagh Massacre. Previously, we have seen that how nationalism started in our country and how the people all together united to fight against the British rule. Now, Jallianwala Bagh massacre that took place on 13th April 1990. A number of people had assembled at Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar for attending the annual Baisakhi fair. General Dyer surrounded the park and opened the fire on the crowd, killing hundreds of people. Here, children, some people came here to protest government repressive measures, while some came to attend annual Baisakhi fair. Many of them were unaware of the martial law that was imposed. So, General Dyer surrounded the entire area, blocked the exit point, and opened fire on the crowd, killing hundreds. As the news spread, crowd took the street. There were hartals, strikes, clashes with the police, and attacks on the government building. Aftermath of the Jallianwala Bagh, crowd did not cooperate with the Britishers. The British used brutal repressive seekings to humiliate and terrorize people. People were flogged and villages were bombed. This violence forced Gandhiji to stop the movement. Children, hear what they are saying that as the spread news of this massacre spread, people started coming out of the street in spite they knew that martial law has been imposed. Many places people attacked police buildings, government buildings, attacked on police stations, and many more strikes and hartals were launched all over the country. The government responded with force to end the movement by humiliating and terrorizing people. Non-cooperation movement. Non-cooperation movement began in January 1921. Here, children, this was the next step taken by Gandhiji to go against the Britishers. Various social groups participated in this movement. Each social groups had their own aspiration, but all fought together for the Swaraj. But the term meant differently from group to group. Here what they are saying, when non-cooperation movement was started by Gandhiji, altogether people cooperated him and took part in the non-cooperation movement. They have their own aspiration. They had their own ideology. Their working methods were different, but altogether only motive was to get complete Swaraj. Now, what were the causes? First cause was the Khilafat issue. After the Rowlatt Act Satyagraha, Mahatma Gandhi felt to launch a more broad-based movement. Here, children, what they are saying that after Rowlatt Satyagraha Act was passed and Gandhiji thought that he has to bring together people from all over the country. So he thought of starting a new movement that was called the non-cooperation movement. So he took upon the Khilafat issue. The First World War has ended with the defeat of Ottoman Turkey. There were rumors that a harsh treaty would be imposed on the Khilafat. So, a Khilafat committee was formed in March 1919 to defeat the Khilafats' temporal powers. Now, the dissatisfaction from the Rowlatt Act and the failure of the Rowlatt Satyagraha, the atrocious killing of hundreds of innocent people by the British at Jallianwala Bagh had made the Indian masses restraint towards the British Empire. Children, hear what they are trying to say that जो रोलैक्ट एक्ट पास करा गया था ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट के द्वारा, जो कि भारत में नहीं लागू करने दिया जा रहा था भारत के लोगों के द्वारा, उसके बाद जलियांवाला बाग जो हत्याकांड हुआ उससे लोग यहाँ के बहुत उग्र हो गए थे और उनके दिलों में ब्रिटिशर्स के प्रति नफ़रत दिन पे दिन बढ़ती जा रही थी। इसीलिए जब महात्मा गांधी ने नॉन कॉपरेशन मूवमेंट का आह्वान करा तो हज़ारों की संख्या में लोग उनके साथ हो गए। नाउ व्हाट वाज द मेथड्स surrendered government titles. Here, what they are saying is that what were the methods used by the people to take over the British rule and to throw away the British rule. People surrendered government buildings. That means they gave up the titles and the honors given by the Britishers. Boycotted civil services, army, police, court and legislative councils, schools and foreign goods. And if the British government used repression, a full civil disobedience movement's campaign would be launched. Now, disagreement. What were the disagreements in this movement? Few Congress members were not in support of the idea of boycotting the council election as they want to bring about change in the system by being in power. That means they are trying to say that some Congress leaders they were not in favor of the non-cooperation movement. R.C. Das and Motilal Nehru formed the Swaraj Party within the Congress to argue for a return to council politics. Some leaders feared the movement to turn violent. Now, what were some important events during non-cooperation movements that took place? Khilafat Committee was formed with leaders such as Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali in March 1990 in Bombay. Mahatma Gandhi in Calcutta session of the Congress convicted other leaders of the need to start a non-cooperation movement in support of Swaraj in September 1990. Non-cooperation program adopted by Congress on December 1920 at the Congress session at Nagpur. Now, the movement in towns. Now, what were the steps taken by the local people? The students left government controlled schools and colleges. Headmasters and teachers resigned. That means now common people also slowly, not in big cities but also in small towns, started participating in the movement. Students they stopped going schools and colleges. Principals, teachers they resigned from the government schools and colleges. Lawyers gave up their legal practices and the council elections were boycotted in most provinces except Madras. Foreign goods were boycotted. Liquor shops picketed and foreign cloth burned in huge bonfires. Now, what were the effects of these movements? The import of foreign cloth held its value dropping from rupees 202 crores to rupees 57 crores. Merchants and traders refused to trade in foreign goods or finance foreign trade. Production of Indian textile mills and handlooms went up. That means after using foreign products, foreign goods, boycotting the foreign jobs. The demand for the Indian goods started increasing. Now, what were the obstructions faced during the movement? Khadi cloth was more expensive than mass product mills cloth, and poor people could not afford to buy it. That means khadi cloth was very expensive because it was made by hand. So the common people could not buy it. Indian educational institutions were slow to come in place of the boycott of the British ones. Now, rebellion in the countryside. The peasants had to do beggar and work without pay in the farm of oppressive landlords. That means they are saying in the villages, peasants have to work without any pay in the farms of the big landlords. The peasants' movement demanded reduction of revenue, abolition of beggar, and social boycott of oppressive landlords. In a word, the houses of talukdars and merchants were attacked, bazaars were looted, and grains hoarded were taken away in many places. Local leaders told the peasants that Gandhiji had declared that no taxes were to be paid and land was to be redistributed among the poor. Nai, Dhobi brands were organized by the panchayats for depriving landlords of the service of the even barbers and washermen. The oath Kisan Sahab was set up head by Jawaharlal Nehru, Baba Ramchandra and a few others in October. Now, how did the tribals took part in the revolt? The government had closed large forest areas, prevented people from entering the forest to graze the cattle and to collect fuel, wood and fruits. Alluri Sitaram Raju led the guerrilla warfare in the Gunma hills of Andhra Pradesh. The rebels attacked police stations, attempted to kill British officials, and carried on guerrillas warfare for achieving Swaraj. Now, these were the steps taken by the tribal people to gain complete Swaraj. Now, Swaraj in the plantation. Under the Inland Immigrant Act of 1859, the plantation workers were not allowed to leave the tea gardens without permission. Thousands of workers, denied the authorities, left the plantation and headed home. They believed that Gandhiji Raj was coming and everyone would be given land in their own villages. That means here they are saying that how the people in the working in the plantations left the British job. On February 1922, Mahatma Gandhi decided to withdraw the non-cooperation movement because of its violence faced in many places. Here, children, what they are saying is that Swaraj had non-cooperation movement has spread in many parts of the country, but in some places it has taken place of violence. यहाँ वहाँ पर बहुत जगहों पर हिंसा का प्रयोग होने लगा था, इसलिए गांधी जी ने मजबूर होकर फरवरी 1922 में इस आंदोलन को ख़त्म करने की घोषणा कर दी. Hope children you have understood this much. Next we will continue in the next class. Thank you.